Hey everybody, Asian Fahzaly Gamer here. I just want to take a second to put out a small disclaimer to let you all know that I am not a mental health professional. I just want to do my best to be able to help others with my own experience, and at the very least, hope to be able to point people in the right direction if they do need help. And of course, I also want to remind people that we do go into very heavy and potentially triggering subjects. So that is something to be considered. But I do appreciate your support for you being here. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Fahzaly Advice. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fahzaly Advice. I want to start this off, of course, by saying thank you to you, our viewers and supporters. I truly do appreciate that you take the time out of your day to watch this podcast. And of course, for those of you who are wondering that are new here, how you can support me, Asian Fahzaly Gamer, as a content creator, because this is my career and I do this full time, it's as easy as like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. These are some of the free ways that you can support content creators, and we appreciate your effort. I also do want to say thank you to our submitters, for without you, there would be no podcast. With that, let's get on into our first submission, shall we? This one is brought to us by The Other Daughter, and they write, Dear Fahza, so listen to this. I know it's going to sound kind of crazy, because thinking about it, living it, it is kind of crazy. But here is the thing. My dad apparently has two families, like legit two families. He works as a cruise ship cook, and apparently during one of their routes, he met someone other than my mom. Well, the piece of shit uses his 6 months at sea and 3 months at home to live two lives, apparently. One with that tramp he met, and the other with us. Only he spends less time with us than with them. The only reason I found out was, in all fairness, because I was being nosy. My piece of shit dad left his laptop open when he went to bed, so I did some snooping. Yes, think of me what you will because of it. But he plays this best dad bullshit because he brings gifts every time he comes back, but treats my mom like she's a butler. And I grew up with that. The bastard got mad whenever we said he should be nicer to mom, and come to find out, this other bitch he's been with, he has two kids with half our age. There were so many happy photos of the tramp and their kids together. They even have a house, while my brother, my mom, and I live in a crappy 2-bedroom apartment. So I saved all of this onto a hard drive, and now I don't know what to do. I am so mad at my dad, and I want to make sure the truth blows up in his face. What do you have to say about this, Fahza? Sincerely, The Other Daughter. Okay, first off, in all fairness, for those of you who do not know, I screen all of the submissions that come through the Fahzaly Advice Gmail. And of course, put this out there, for anybody that is interested in submitting to the Fahzaly Advice podcast, it's as easy as emailing fahzalyadvice@gmail.com. There'll be more information following the end of the podcast. And there are some submissions that I just do not do. But there are some submissions that come through that just leave me in awe. And this is definitely one of them. And I hope, submitter, you don't take this the wrong way. It's just, this is one of those situations that you really only think about in sitcoms or, in TV shows or Hallmark. And to see it and hear about it in real life kind of makes me sad. It really does. Because one, this is not a position any child should be put in. Ever. Secondly, I really do not care what the excuse is. There is no excuse to be a cheater. If you're not happy with the relationship that you are currently in, no matter what the situation, do not be in that relationship. At least have the fortitude to be honest with all parties involved, especially if there are kids involved, because they shouldn't be privy to watching adultery occur. That's never their responsibility, but it always seems to end up on the kids. And to the parents out there that want to make excuses and seem to think, oh, this or that or this or that, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because the moment that you are a parent, it doesn't take away from your autonomy, but it adds to the weight of every decision you make. And if you're not willing to consider that, then you're a bad parent. You can dislike this. I truly, truly do not care for the opinions of those that are willing to disregard the people, the constituents in their life that they are responsible for, simply because they are too obtuse to do so. That's not my problem. Now, I apologize if I sound a little bit perturbed, because honestly, I am a little bit perturbed at the other daughter, because like I said, you do not deserve to hold the weight of this decision. This is not your problem, but it is at the same time, because he's your dad, and it affects your entire family. And that is something that needs to be considered, because the decision that you make to reveal this information will affect your family, for better or for worse. But considerations need to be made as you move forward. Are you willing to see the consequences occur? Because the consequences can't really be predicted. Murphy's Law is always at play, and you never know how people are going to act. And I don't know your father in any way, shape, or form, so I cannot even assume in any way, because I have no approximation to assume from. But what I will tell you is, it's going to hurt. Not just you, not just your family, but everybody involved. Because I am hard-pressed to believe that your father's other family knows about y'all. I just really can't fathom that an entire family would be privy to such a superfluous conspiracy. Neither do I see the other person, whom I do understand your anger towards. But keep in mind that in this instance, they are just as much of a victim as you are, because they're more than likely ignorant of the situation. It is not their fault that your father chose to be a liar. Because now this is making assumptions without knowing them, obviously. Like I said, I'm just hard-pressed to believe that this other family knows about you, and if they did know about you, they would be okay with the situation. That would be not beyond the realm of possibility, just highly disappointing. Either way, in this situation, let's assume that they don't know about y'all just as much as y'all technically didn't know about them. The only perpetrator here is your dad, because they're the one who chose to be dishonest and to cheat and to have an entire other family. Trust me, I understand the struggles of being a cruise ship cook. I was a cruise ship cook for one tour. That's all I could really do. And I'm going to tell you right now, that was a tough tour. Because 6 months at sea and 3 months at home, and then, back at sea again, it's really freaking tough. And it's hard to keep relations going. And the fact that he had a family, I mean, that's just a whole messy situation right there. And I'm not trying to make it any messier. I'm not. When it comes down to it, my advice to you is to sit and consider before you make any decision, because the decision is yours to make. And no matter what I say, you're going to do whatever it is that you think is right, because you're your own person. And I know you want to consider what I have to say, but I want you to realize this is your decision, because you are the one that holds this information, sadly, even though it's not your it shouldn't be your responsibility. It shouldn't. But you hold it. You kind of decided to be, nosy about it, and you found out. This is one of those instances where, the saying goes, you fucked around and you found out. But before you do anything, sit down and consider all of the factors. Consider everybody involved and who will be hurt. And that the moment that this information is known, everything will change. And whatever decision you make moving forward, no matter what, there will be good things and bad things to come forward with it. But don't sit there and think that, how do I put this? Because don't sit there and think that you have to be silent to keep everything comfortable. Do what you need to do and do what you think is right. Because if you see something wrong and you have the ability to say something and you don't, trust me, you will regret it. So consider these things as you move forward. But understand that it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what anybody says or what anybody thinks. It matters what you think, because it's your decision. This is your family. This is your life. Do what you need to do. I hope this helps. I do. And I appreciate your submission. Now, before we move on to our next submission, let's have a small commercial break, shall we?
Well, hey there, everybody. Did you know that Agent Fahzaly Gamer has a Patreon?
That's right, everybody, and we're here to tell you about it together.
Subscribers have a chance to see content early, as well as request content on higher tiers.
That's right. You can ask Agent Fahzaly Gamer to read you a story, talk to you about lore or gameplay, or many other things.
But wait, there's more.
Subs that have been stayed around for 3 months or longer get special gifts. And if we reach our stretch goal of 10 subs or more, we will continue to add more to the Patreon, making it better for all of you.
So please consider, at the very least, checking out Agent Fahzaly Gamer's Patreon. Maybe subscribing and supporting him. And of course, we thank you for your time.
Hey everybody, Mr. Announcer and Random Scholar here to tell you about something amazing.
That's right. We have a merch store known as the AFG Brand Store, where you can purchase many different things.
Do you want a tin cup? Do you want a water bottle? Do you need a shirt? Do you need other things? Things that make you so that you support Agent Fahzaly Gamer? Well, check out the AFG Brand Store.
But wait, there's more.
That's right. We are going to be continuing to add to the merch store. On the monthly, we'll be adding in new designs, as well as, of course, introducing discounts for all of you.
So check out the afgbrandstore.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I do hope you enjoyed our first submission and found value in my words. And I do appreciate our viewers for making it this far into the podcast. And for anybody who's new, if you do want to find ways to support me as a full-time content creator, remember, it's as easy as like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. Now, let's get on into our second submission, shall we? This one is brought to us by AITAH, and I'm sure many of you know exactly what that acronym stands for. And they write, "Hey Faja, so I know you don't do this kind of answering here on this podcast, but I gotta know, am I the asshole here? Now I will state this, I am more than happy to answer these kinds of questions on the Fahzaly Advice podcast. Just note that if this is sent in, I will give you my 2 cents. I will not hold back, and I will be honest. So be ready for that. Let's continue, shall we? I recently went on a date with someone, and she was a lot of fun. She was interesting, but she was also incredibly rude to the waiter, the busboy, and even the hostess. That already sounds like a big red flag. It almost felt like she got off on talking down to others, and it wasn't subtle either. We had some interesting conversations, and dinner ended without much incident, except when it came time to leave. I left cash and tip on the table in the leather check tab. We both got up, and I went to the bathroom before we left. And when I came out of the bathroom, she was yelling at the hostess and waiter. I walked up, and from the shouting and talking over each other, I was able to gather that my date attempted to retrieve the tip that I left for the waiter, stating they didn't deserve it. The hostess and waiter didn't think it was right for her to try and pocket the tip that I left and spoke up, which caused her to start yelling, which is when I walked in. I was so embarrassed, I took the money from her hands, gave it to the waiter, and just left. Now, before someone goes off and says I stranded her, it was 6 p.m. by the time I left as we planned on a movie. It was a busy and well-populated mall strip on a weekend with plenty of people around, and it was in her town, which I picked her up only 5 minutes away from the restaurant we went to. So I gotta know, Faja, in your opinion, am I the asshole here for just piecing out of that stupid situation? Sign, AITAH. Okay, well, like I stated beforehand, when it comes to these kinds of submissions, I will give you my 100% full-on opinion when it comes to this situation. Are you the asshole for what you did? Personally, I don't think you are. Why? Because the way that that person acted was unbelievably deplorable. You don't talk down to the waitstaff. You don't talk down to anyone. There's no reason to do that. I personally would have walked out the moment she started being rude to the hostess, the busboy, and the waiter when the date started. And I would question her about it. I would call her out right there in public about it. And if she wasn't willing to talk about it, well, I was already out the door anyways. But that's just me. Once again, I'm going to preface this with something that I've said beforehand in other podcasts. I do not expect anybody to do what I do or act as I act. I expect y'all to act accordingly, as y'all would see fit. I mean, that granted, you do send these in for advice and for perspective, and I will give that. But I don't expect you to listen. I do appreciate the submission, and I do hope you will listen, but that's the most that I can do. So, when it comes to this, you are not the asshole. No. And if anybody's going to go say, oh, well, you should have at least taken her home, she was 5 minutes away from home. He was nice enough to drive her, pick her up, instead of expect her to show up there, because when it comes down to dating, there's no rules. Like, there are no rules other than consent. That's the only real rule. But you guys can go do anything. You don't even have to go to a dinner and a movie. It could be a picnic. It could be a walk in the park. It could be whatever. And when it comes down to when things break down, There are no rules. As long as you don't harm anyone, you can peace on out. And she was in town, as you stated, populated area. It was 6 p.m. Still probably either somewhat daylight or just twilight. Not really a dangerous situation. So, if anybody's giving you guff because of this, I want you to know that, at the very least, in my personal opinion, there's no reason for it. You didn't do anything wrong. You walked away from a situation that you didn't need to be a part of. You made sure the people who needed to receive the tip got the tip, and you walked out. It's not like you yelled at her. It's not like you insulted her. It's not like you made a bigger scene than was necessary because the person that was making the scene, according to your submission, keep in mind, we do only have one side here, so there is some things that might be missing. Either way, I'm not here to try to say that the submitter is doing anything, or I'm not here to say that the submitter is being disingenuous. Either way, when it comes to that, she seemed to be the one that was making the scene, not you. What you seem to have been doing was de-escalating the situation. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's, in fact, the best thing to do in that regard. Because things can get out of hand really quickly. So kudos to you for keeping your cool in that situation. Because that, I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little bit blown away. I mean, granted, the submission that I just read beforehand was also kind of whoa. But this is also kind of whoa. Not something that I would really expect from... I wouldn't really expect an adult to act like that and think that it was okay. Like, where do people get off, or where do they learn that type of behavior? To think that they have the ability, well, to think that they have the right to talk down to anyone just because they're doing their job. Just because they're making a living. And it's not the living that you're making. And be it as it may, me having been in the food industry for over 15 years, no longer in the food industry, but still having been in the food industry for well over 15 years, I have seen all kinds. I have. And I have seen this kind of person time and time again. And it still baffles me to this day why someone would even think that they could do that or should do that. It doesn't make sense to me. Because someone who's doing their job, unless of course they're being visceral to another, where's the reason to even think that we should just make someone's day crappy? I see no point in that. And I see no point in giving time or patience to people like that. So, like I said, good on you. Good on you for walking away. And anybody out there, when it comes down to the situation, first off, people in the service industry are just doing their job. Just like everyone else who's just doing their job. It is work in this broken system of our economy as it is. There is no shame in a job that allows one to survive in this confusing environment that is man-made. And no person, no human is above another. They're not. Despite what anybody here might think, despite what anybody might disagree with me on, we are all people. We are all the same species. And guess what? Shit rolls down fucking hill. For all of us. Whether you know it or not, whether you are present for it or not, whether you are aware of it or not. What affects one will affect us all somewhere down the road in one way or another. And too often we are not willing to consider that because we're too busy being blinded by the thought process and the egotism that some form of material status that doesn't necessarily physically exist somehow gives you the delusion that you are above another when you are not. And this is something that I will always live by as a philosophy. To judge people by their actions, by how they treat others. There's a saying out there. Humanity will not be judged by its best, by its strength, by its technology. Humanity will be judged by how they treat those that are labeled the wretches of society. Be it in kindness and in cruelness, either one will reveal the true essence. And how we do and how we act has weight more than we believe so, and more than we are blinding ourselves to. I know it seems like I'm preaching, and know it sounds like I am saying something that is not relevant, but it is. It is because this here is a showcase, this person's behavior that AITAH was privy to is more common than not, and it doesn't make sense why it is. We are a society that has yet to evolve past our infancy in our tribalism. And it is not only terrifying, it is sad. I truly do hope, that you, AITAH, the submitter, have found value in my words. I hope that y'all enjoyed this episode of Fahzaly Advice. And for anybody who is wondering how to submit to this podcast, wait until the end of the episode to find out more. And I appreciate all of you for being here, for your time, and for your support. Thank you so very much. But now it's time for this love train to get rolling on through. Choo choo. I love every single freaking one of you. Well, everybody, that's the end of Fahzaly Advice. I hope you did enjoy this episode and you found some value in what I said. And of course, if you are interested in participating, if you need some advice or some perspective, feel free to email the address at the end of this part. And remember, all submissions are 100% anonymous. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Need some perspective? Need some advice? Want your submission read on podcast? Well, email Fahza at fahzalyadvice@gmail.com. And remember, all submissions are 100% anonymous unless requested upon.